Welcome back. I have decided to stop being a little bitch boy and record this one myself instead of using the text-to-speech guy. His name is Chris, by the way, and I ran out of credits on my 3 accounts, so you know it is what it is. We gotta make do out here. Without any further ado, let's see if the second half of these NBA teams would stand a chance against me. We have the results of the first 15 up here already, so let's go ahead and pull the next team. All right, we got the Lakers, world-renowned brand based in LA, massive merch market, tons of championships, huge name players. We're talking Magic, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, and all for what? Just to get their goofy little namesake's ass clapped by me in a fight. I mean, seriously, Laker has got to be one of the worst team names in terms of intimidation or just sounding cool in general. It doesn't exactly strike fear into the hearts of the enemies, is what I'm saying. But not only that, like, what the hell is a Laker, anyways? No, it really doesn't have some deeper cool meaning at all. It's just a relic of when the team was based in Minnesota, aka the land of 10,000 lakes, in 3rd century AD. But when they did the old Oregon Trail to California in 1960, they kept the name because it was fun and quirky, I guess. So to expand upon the part where I think I could kick a Laker's ass, that's because a Laker is, in my mind, like a retired Midwestern couple who enjoy boating in the summer. These people these people have like a sunset or retractable awning on their RV and buy shit on QVC. So of course I would drop one of these fucking clowns. All right, so yeah, that was kind of harsh. I didn't really realize I had this much vitriol pent up against the Lakers' shitty name, but I guess this has been a learning moment for us. So next up, we have the Phoenix Suns. This one is a real threat. It's actually the only thing that could really fuck you up while being on a lake. Fortunately, Suns are pretty far away, so we can just like set a screen and mostly nullify the effects. I'm really pale if you haven't been able to suss out from my voice, so I buy that SPF Steven Adams stuff. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the sun is a deadly laser, much like KD's shooting, considering his release point is above the rim, but I digress. We're talking about the team name today, not how garbage Bradley Beal is. So that leads us to this. Could I beat the sun in hand-to-hand combat? I mean, maybe if I went at night, but yeah, no. The answer is just no. Up next, we have the Blazers. So this one is sort of in the same category as like the 76ers, which is saying that a trailblazer is really just a guy of sorts. Um, Now I guess a trailblazer is actually the guys that took the Oregon Trail all the way, so that's pretty good for them. That gives them a clear advantage over the 76er, in that they surely have resistance to dysentery at least. If we're considering a blazer to be one of those Conestoga wagon type motherfuckers, then I probably would get murked because those guys could carry like 200 pounds of meat back to the wagon, and they probably had to eat a relative at some point, so you know they're battle hardened. But on the other hand, a blazer could be a connoisseur of brush fire in a more sedative sense. I bet Portland wishes it had more of those kinds of blazers and fewer folded crack zombies right about now, but that's a topic for a different video. I think my fighting ability lies somewhere between smoking a stoner and getting cannibalized by a rabid frontiersman. So I guess the average of that is a pretty good matchup. Let's go banger matchup for this one. Next up, we got the Kings, the OG Nepo baby job. So some Kings were pretty badass, like the Warrior King type dudes. Some Kings were just kind of dudes. And some kings were so dog shit inbred they had to gaslight all their subjects into believing it was because they would be too powerful otherwise, and they needed a nerf or some shit. Looking at you, King Tut. On the whole, a king would certainly have, all the best gear, the best training, dieting, etc., etc. And that stuff used to matter until Mr. Colt came along and put a piece in my hand. So I'd say this is definitely a fair fight. Plus, the turnout would be pretty awesome, right? You got a king in there. Let's go with banger matchup for this one too. Okay, now we've got the Knicks. Just a bit of backstory. A Knick is short for a Knickerbocker, which is just like way too many syllables for some Dutch fuck who settled in New York and wore stupid pants. This happened in the 1600s, so much like the 76er, I would probably fuck this guy up. I mean, the guys were named after their style of fucking pantaloon. Like, would they even have the range of motion to fight in those bad boys? Probably not. I would I would kick a Nick right in the dick. Like, the Dutch are kind of crafty bastards though, so gotta give them, a few points for that. So let's just put him in at the D tier at I'd probably kick his ass. All right, moving on, we have the Pelicans. Okay, so pelicans are pretty hefty birds. I don't know if you've ever seen one up close, but they're kind of big motherfuckers. Um, I think I would rather fight a hawk than a pelican, honestly. If the pelican is smart and uses some strategic thinking, which I don't believe they're capable of, but maybe he will understand that he should just go for a Pyrrhic victory and just try to channel his inner B5N Nakajima and kamikaze me at max speed. Because if he tries to fight me normally, I eventually just grab him around the neck and kind of wring it, and that's sort of it. But imagine if that bad boy was coming in hot at 30 miles per hour. It's like a 20-pound bird. That's like a cannonball coming at you. And birds have been known to take out much larger targets if they're willing to lay it down for God Emperor Hirohito. Usually that looks like them just getting kind of slooped up into a jet engine or something. But there are reports of direct foul headshots on high tier targets like Fabio on that roller coaster that one time. Anyways, I still think the Pelicans are pretty weak and belong in the same tier with the Hawks. They're just not much of a threat compared to some of these other teams. Up next, we have the Hornets. Now, a big ass swarm of these guys would be pretty awful, like hundreds and or thousands. Yeah, I would be screwed. But the way we've been ranking so far would imply a single Hornet, which isn't really that scary at all. Um, Even if we took this to mean multiple Hornets, it would still not be a number bigger than the like number of players on the Hornets team, so that would be like 15 max. Um, yeah, I would absolutely thrash these noob insects. Actually, one time at cross country practice, I destroyed this absolutely massive hornet nest with a stick. I got stung a few times, but I probably killed like 1,000 of them. So I already have a big dub over these dumb little shits. F tier for sure. Houston's up next, and boy, do we have a problem here. A rocket can be a literal weapon of mass destruction, so I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to beat one up. I think the best I could hope for is that the rocket is made by Boeing or something and will blow itself up before it gets to me. Um, but in another thought, have you seen those SpaceX rockets land themselves? That stuff is pretty incredible, I'm not even gonna lie. So yeah, rockets would roast me pretty good unless I were able to slip some faulty O-rings in there. Not likely. Probably 100% fatal. All right, we got ourselves another wise ass opponent in the Miami Heat. Going up against something like this, like an abstract idea, is really unfair in its own right, considering you just can't kill something like this. It's abiotic. Uh, but this one is especially unfair. Like, have you heard of the heat death of the universe? This is one of the only things that can end the entire universe. And somehow I'm supposed to beat this in a fight. I think I've got a snowball's chance in hell. Next up, we have the Chicago Bulls. I surely get stomped by a bull the majority of the time, but at least it's a thing that I could theoretically kill. Um, Bulls seem to just be pissed in general, and they don't really care about you in particular. It's probably because there was some guy tasing their bull balls when they were stuck there in that pen. But yeah, they get mad when they see red, just like me looking at the stock market. But the main thing there is like a subsect of people kill bulls for sport, and they do it by throwing fucking fiesta darts at them and dancing around in a pretty boy little suit. So that gives me a lot of hope that I could maybe just juke the big boy a few times. I think eventually he would get me, but I don't know. I've got a chance in this one. All right, listen. I know New York Mets, Jets, Nets. I gets it. It's cute and it's a fine name. I lets them have that. But this is a tier list on how well that team name can fight. And I can safely say there is no danger at all for me on this one. Maybe if I were a sea turtle or a Charlotte Hornet, I would have a bad time going up against a net. But seriously, absolute bottom of the barrel. What the hell is even that? Next up, we have the OKC Thunder. I actually kind of struggled with this one because Thunder on its own isn't really that dangerous, but with a little context, the team is named after the weather in Tornado Alley. So I gave them the benefit of the doubt that lightning will be there, also doing its thing. Uh, it's kind of hard to have thunder without lightning, anyways. That said, I don't really have much of a chance fighting against a thunderstorm. So yeah, I just put it in 1000% fatal. Final answer. All right, Golden State Warriors. Now, I think this one mostly speaks for itself. Warriors do war, and that is what we are ranking these teams on. So, Warriors are still mortal beings and not some omnipresent entity, so that's a plus one for me. But we could break this down a little more though, because a lot of warriors are pretty trash and a lot of warriors are pretty strong. So think of like a World War One draftee. That was basically a sacrifice to the RNG artillery gods, or like a Persian immortal, which the name would suggest are that they're hard to kill, but really they got that name because they just kept coming after you struck the first one down. So I'd probably die to any of the above warriors, but it's also true that I'd have a better chance against an immortal than a hoplite who has just killed 45 of them. But either way, scary tier opponent, I'm probably fucked. All right, the Celtics are up next. When I think of the Celts, I think of Boudica in Civ 5, and I also think of Mel Gibson in Braveheart. Um, that may be totally inaccurate. Also, no one wants to hear this, but Braveheart is, although a great movie, one of the most historically bullshit movies. They pretty much just took the writing of some blind dude in the 14th century as law and then applied it to William Wallace instead of the dude it was written about, Robert the Bruce. Uh, oh no, I'm doing that sidetrack thing again. Okay, it's kind of irrelevant anyways, because the NBA team has a picture of a goddamn leprechaun on their logo, so maybe that's closer to what I'm fighting anyways. If that's the guy I'm squaring up with, he better start praying to his lucky charms and wield that shitty little shillelagh valiantly, because I'm gonna clock that chump right in the jaw. I would, I would kick his ass, no doubt. Last, but certainly not least, at least in terms of this tier list, we have the Orlando Magic. Magic is a completely impossible opponent to defeat. Uh, First off, it's not real. Sorry to, burst a few bubbles there, but it is the spooky uncle of the Washington Wizards, which already seemed like a pretty unfair fight to begin with. The difference is Orlando is the Magic. They're not just the guy who practices it. So, like, extra boned in that case. The Magic, to use an analogy, is to the Wizards as the Heat is to the Suns, if that makes any sense. It doesn't really need to make sense because I'm obviously not winning, so let's just leave it there. Alright, guys. So, just a quick little reminder, no one has reported back to me about the Wendy's saucy nuggets yet. I'm kind of a little disappointed with that. Like, how am I supposed to know if they're any good? But that's it. That wraps up this video. If you stayed this long, you're a real one, and I appreciate you. Um, Let me know what you thought about the real voiceover, or should I just go back to text to speech? Uh, yeah, have a good one, bro.